Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you can hear and see me. Receive warm greetings from East Africa Law Society here in Arusha. I do hope wherever you are, it is as sunny as it is here. Welcome to this session on the wellness organized by the Young Lawyers Committee, the East Africa Law Society. And we are really thrilled and happy to have you all here with us. This session is going to be moderated by Dennis, and I'm just going to welcome Dennis to David, rather, to welcome the panelists who will be guiding us through this session. For our participants, feel free to raise any questions that you might have in the chat box. And yeah, I hope that we do have a good session. Maybe before I give it up, I've just remembered I didn't say my name. Yeah, my name is Alvin Kubasu, and I'm standing in for my colleague, Gabriel. Thank you so much, and David, take it away.
Thank you, Alvin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Leon Sindika. I'm an associate at Africa Patronis, based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The webinar here today is going to address law and wellness, cultivating a culture of healthy living. This is a topic that sometimes is not at the back of our minds. Sometimes as we carry on with our day-to-day, there's sometimes we sometimes forget that wellness and our health is really important, and that the culture that we create needs to be a healthy one for us to enjoy our legal practice. And we can see that corporate wellness programs have existed since the late 1800s and have undergone significant changes over time. However, interest in these programs has recently skyrocketed, and particularly in the wake of the pandemic. And despite that many law firms are moving towards offering wellness benefits, many still struggle to help employees lead healthy lives. It is also important to note that the obesity rate in the world has been rising over the past 3 decades, and this poses very significant health challenges and risks. And mental health is another increasingly significant medical concern, with more than 1 in 5 adults experiencing mental illness each year. And although corporate wellness programs can effectively improve employee health benefits and health in general, these statistics suggest that they should not be solely relied upon as a solution. If firms want to develop and sustain a community of healthy employees, they must go beyond a check-the-box approach by creating a culture of health. And that's the importance of discussing how legal practitioners can cultivate a culture of living. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a diverse panel that will be seeking to address this topic, and each panelist will get about 15 minutes to present, and they will each address different topics based on their experiences. And before we begin, I would like to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to share your questions, comments, or any other concerns in the chat, and we will address them during the Q&A session as the webinar progresses. To begin with, I would like to introduce our first panelist, who is Dr. Victoria Kobusinje Ndanabanji. Dr. Victoria Kobusinje Ndanabanji is daughter to late Dr. Sheila Sarah Ndanabanji and Dr. Nathan Ndanabanji. She comes from a family of 3 children and is blessed with 2 children, both boys aged 13 and 9 years. She works in HIV care and research for the last close to 8 years. She completed her Master's in Public Studies and graduated from the University of Manchester with a Master's in Public Health. She had undergraduate training in Barara University of Science and Technology. Dr. Victoria is passionate about pursuing a career in non-communicable diseases and HIV, especially as the trend of non-communicable diseases in the general population, but more so in the HIV-infected and affected family goes up. She has a special interest and passion for non-communicable diseases, prevention and control, which can only be achieved through maintaining a healthy lifestyle for which she strongly advocates. She notes that currently there's a high mortality rate and morbidity as a result of preventable non-communicable diseases globally from studies that have been conducted thus far. She's also a young investigator. She's also a young investigator She's also a young investigator and principal investigator on clinical trials being conducted at Baylor College of Medicine Children's Foundation, Uganda. That's Dr. Victoria, everyone. Moving on to introduce our second panelist. Our second panelist is Miss Purity Metha. Miss Purity Metha is an experienced health and social professional with a specialization in communication and advocacy for faith-based organizations. With over 20 years of progressive field experience, she has demonstrated leadership in integrated multisectoral program implementation and social behavioral change initiatives. She possesses strong skills in project coordination, stakeholder engagement, and effective team leadership. Ms. Mehta currently serves as a program coordinator or social worker at Eastern Deanery AIDS Relief Program since 2014. Whereas in this role, she oversees support groups, coordinates adolescence projects, and provides technical support for policy analysis. That's Ms. Purity Mehta. Moving on to our third panelist for today, this is Ms. Clarice Osore. Ms. Clarice Osore is the managing partner at Mbone Osore and Associates Advocate. She's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, admitted to the role of advocates in the year 2016. She runs a solo practice called Mbone Osore and Associates Advocates that is based in Nairobi, Kenya. Her areas of practice include family law, specifically divorce, matrimonial property, and the developing jurisprudence on surrogacy and in vitro fertilization. She also handles a bit of employment law and commercial litigation. Ms. Clarice is a member of the Law Society of Kenya Gender Committee and has served, Ms. Clarice was a member of the Law Society of Kenya Gender Committee between the years 2018 to 2020, where she helped work on the advocates' sexual harassment policy. She presently sits in the committee of the National Council on Administration of Justice for Children. She's equally a board member at Equal Chances Foundation, a non-governmental organization that primarily focuses on the right to education of children in poverty-stricken areas within the Republic of Kenya. Moving on to our fourth speaker. This is Ms. Jocelyn Minza Simon. Ms. Jocelyn Minza Simon is an advocate of the High Court of Tanzania. She's currently practicing in Tanzania mainland and has specialized in commercial transactions, oil and gas law, and labor law. She's also an experienced mental health advocate. She works at Boresha Radio, an online youth-oriented radio, as a marketing executive and presenter for a mental health program known as MindRise, a special program that is aiming at creating awareness on various mental health issues and eliminating the stigma around speaking on mental health issues in Tanzania. Jocelyn also leads a movement called Chase Out Depression, also aimed at creating public awareness on mental health issues. She's now at her final stage of registering an NGO dedicated towards mental health issues in Tanzania. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our panel for today. I would like to invite Dr. Victoria to begin. Dr. Victoria.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Dr. Victoria.
So I hope I'm loud and clear and you're able to see my screen. I'd like to start by expounding on what this whole term is. Many people hear about wellness and it seems oblivious to them what wellness is. So in summary, wellness is a state of living what we call a healthy lifestyle. And this encompasses all spheres of our being. It could be our physical aspects, our emotional aspects, spiritually, socially, intellectually. And the main aim is to make sure you are a holistic person in all these spheres. So it's the act of practicing habits on a daily basis to attain a better physical and mental health as the overall goal. In that case, you are not just surviving through life, but you're actually thriving. And there's a slogan that I usually remind people about, that your health is your wealth. If you're healthy, you can work to get wealthy. You're unable to put in whatever it takes to wealth. Said it's a practice of daily, you intentionally choose certain habits. So we look at it as becoming a culture, it becomes part of you. And what is a wellness culture? This is one where individuals or social entities are able to make healthy lifestyle choices in the larger society or environment. And that means that the environment in which you are, or the societies that you engage in, should be able to have values or provide for or promote options that enable you to be capable to produce a healthy individual or a well individual, irrespective of whichever background or environment they come from. And in this case, it means that healthy choices become values, like we have values that we stand by. So healthy choices become your values and they become easy to choose. I know this takes time because for many of us, it's not something we were taught as children. So it's a culture that we have to build. But above all, if you have adopted this culture, like I said, you are able to thrive. I come from a background that is research oriented. And so usually I do not base my principles on things that are not evidence based. And so I did some research to see what is out there about wellness? What statistics are there? And research has shown that organizations that particularly have, or individuals that are in organizations that have a culture or practice a culture of wellness, have employees that will be 3 times higher creative and will be about 31% times higher productive than the regular individuals. And if you're interested in sales, 37% higher sales. So this shows that when an employee or an individual is well, when they're healthy, both the organization will benefit, but also the employee will benefit. So your productivity is up, you're bringing in a lot more, and so your employer is determined to also increase your earnings, increase your benefits, because you are being more productive and beneficial to the institution where you work. And that is why one of the reasons why I joined advocacy and championing for health and wellness, because over the years of my practice, that we're losing so many in big numbers to diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, strokes, cancer, and suicide, which has actually gone up post-COVID. The suicide rates have actually gone up a lot more from mental health challenges, because people are not being more keen about their mental health, their wellness, and they are neglecting these areas. And recently we have an escalating epidemic of obesity, which predisposes us to so many of the diseases that I mentioned above, which people do not acknowledge. And I give an example of something I did one day when I dropped off my children at school. I wasn't in a hurry to go to work, and we had just come out of a second lockdown in Uganda, and I just sat there and observed, and I realized that so many parents were coming in, they themselves obese, their children obese, and I realized that this is a challenge that we need to fight head on. And these are lifestyle issues or lifestyle diseases, mainly determined by simple things. What do we eat? How much activity do we put in? How many hours do we sleep? Do we drink water? Do we get exposure to sunshine? The simple things. And are we willing to do whatever it takes without getting tired or giving up? So the norm is we tend to eat a lot more calories. And as legal practitioners, I know you do a lot of reading and a lot of writing. So the temptation is high to have snacks at your table and you're eating. You don't even realize how much you're putting in. And then you will get into office when it's still dark, leave office after it's dark, you're rushing home, getting through the traffic, the daily tasks of life, and exercise becomes minimal on your priority list, which is important. So we eat whatever we want to eat, and we do not watch what we put in. So if you put in dead, vibrant foods, like I usually take people, which is junk food, processed food, that is what you expect your body to be like. But if you put in bright, vibrant foods, expect the same in return. So really that is what wellness is, and why I chose to go into this area. And later we shall look at things like how do you do it. But for now, I want to just take us through what the risks for unwellness are, and that is where my presentation will end, and then we shall come back later. So what are the risk factors or the things that predispose? You have already alluded to some of these. That predispose you or your body to being unhealthy or unwell. Things like eating excess calories. I mentioned fast foods, I mentioned snacks, because we feel sometimes it's that easy to go to, I've left work late or I'm rushing to work, let me just stop by a restaurant, a bakery, and pick up something, and we don't even stop to think, what is it that I've picked? What value is it going to add to my body? I mentioned things like lack of adequate exercise. Many of us are in the tech era where we either on our phones or a computer or a device, because we have so much to get done, so much writing to do. You even go home and open your laptop and stop where you stopped while you are at work. You eat and you do not sleep. Then in Uganda, I think alcohol rates are through the roof. I don't know about the other countries, but this is a challenge that we face. Whereas as doctors or as medical practitioners, we recommend that if you're to take alcohol, have 1 to 2 bottles of beer. You will find somebody takes a crate to themselves, and maybe it's on a daily basis. And then these days, the spirits have taken the show. You have your black, blue labels. There are several labels that I can't mention, and several spirits whose names that I can't mention. Then we have issues like smoking, whereas we're supposed to have smoking corners so that those who do not want to partake in taking secondhand smoke are not affected. These are not observed. And then some people think that smoking actually gets them more productive, keeps them more alert. So you smoke, you're taking in nicotine. These days we have shisha, we have, I don't even know what they call them. There are these guns that, or pens that they puff that have some nicotine. And then all these are toxic to our lungs and to our airways. So 20, 30 years down the road, you have cancer of the throat and you're wondering, how did it come about? Time to be irritated by these pollutants. Then are being introduced to drugs in school. And so they continue with the habits because it's addictive. And some of them are legal practitioners and they're actually using them quietly. And then stress where the main cause, the primary cause is us failing to strike a balance between work and our life pressures. And we all know how difficult the economy has become, especially after COVID. Now in Uganda, we have cutbacks on funding because of some laws that we have passed. We have investments that have gone bad, inflation that keeps going up, and all these stresses piled on us. And somehow we fail to find coping mechanisms. Then issues like lack of adequate sleep, the rate of what we call insomnia is quite high. So many people come to me these days and they say, you know what, I go to bed at 8 in my bed, I've switched until 3 a.m. So this is an issue. Then exposure to sunlight. Like I mentioned, we get into office at dawn when it's still dark. We leave at dusk when it is dark. So when do you ever get sunlight? No one is intentional to say, you know what, I need to take a break, maybe at about 9, 10 a.m., take a bit of a walk so that I can get some sunshine. Because you need the vitamin D from the sun. Where else will you get it? Yes, we get it from food, but we only get it in small quantities. Then family history of some of these diseases. If you know that in your family, you have heard of people who have hypertension, they have diabetes, they have cancer, just know that that alone is a risk factor for you to develop any of these diseases just by someone in your family, close family, having had any of these. And several other factors that I don't want to spend so much time on. So I will stop here for now as you ponder on the things that I've discussed, and as we listen to other presenters, you now have a rough idea of what wellness is, why we have brought wellness to you, and what the risk factors are. So I'll stop here and allow our next presenter to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria, for taking us through what wellness means, culture of healthy living, and of course, pointing out what are the risk factors that may arise. And we're looking forward to when you come to tell us on how best we can live life moving forward. Moving on to our next panelist, I would like to welcome Ms. Purity Mehta. Ms. Purity Mehta will be taking us through a number, be presenting and taking us through based on experience as a health and social professional. She'll also be highlighting how are these recurring issues impacting growth and performance of employees in the workspace. And lastly, she'll also later on come to take us through what initiatives will be needed to be put in place in order to ensure a culture of healthy living. Miss Purity, you are welcome.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me? Kindly confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can confirm.
Am I
that
audible?
I can. Yes, you're audible.
Okay.
And I can see your presentation as well.
Can you see my screen? I'm sharing my screen. I hope you can all be able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, thank you. My name is Purity Medha from Kenya. I'm a program coordinator, social worker in a CBO, I would say faith-based organization in Kenya, based in Kenya, Nairobi. We are based in the mostly in eastern side of Nairobi, Kenya. I have a vast experience dealing with the issues of wellness and also psychosocial issues, mainly dealing with the young people. My experience over 20 years is mainly focusing the young people and also the families. Okay. I'll continue sharing my screen. When I say mental health, in mental health, we are, as human beings, we are characterized of maybe the biological, the social, the psychological. A human being is characterized of all that. And we may say, like, if one of them is affected, of which it happens for us human beings at every stage of life, and also as we continue living, facing even different challenges, including even before we were born, even in the before we were born. And also after that, we go through different mental issues that may affect us. And that is why sometimes we may find that we have incapacitation to be able to achieve maybe even our careers as even young people and as even we get older. And sometimes we assume what we are going through, or even people surrounding us may assume what we are going through. And sometimes they may even label us as unwell, as sick people, as even mad people. But we are not mad, people are not mad. They are unwell. They need support. And I want to believe that when we complete this maybe sharing, we are left at a better position maybe to support our colleagues, our friends, even at workplace, and so that we may be able to work a healthy environment. And I may handle the biological. When we come to the biological, we have maybe the physical health that maybe sometimes people see you and they say that maybe you are healthy. There is the part of disability. There are people who have been born maybe able differently. They are able to do things differently. And others, maybe as we move on in our life, we are incapacitated in different ways. Maybe you had an accident or something happened, or maybe a sickness. And at that point, maybe we become able differently at that point. Then we also have genetic vulnerabilities. As our first panelist has shared, we have different genetic vulnerabilities, and maybe it is important we learn about our maybe family tree, such that we know what is happening. Even as we continue maybe living in our life, we may find that maybe in our genetic makeup, maybe you're vulnerable, our family is vulnerable, maybe getting like high blood pressure. Sometimes because there are those predisposing factors that are there, and sometimes even we do not know what is happening. There is the unknown part. And let us be able to take care of the known part, and the part that is not known, maybe we say it's important also to check the family history and what we can. Then we have the temperament, and in the temperament, there is a capacity of a person maybe to take care of different temperament. Some of us can be able to take care of different things differently. That is why you may find that when a person you have faced a challenge, you are able to handle it successfully. Do not perceive a person who was not able to maybe handle it at that point as not as incapable. That person is capable, but is capable differently. He or she may need an insight so that he may be able to be supported and handle it without, if maybe surrounded by the people who do not judge them, they are able to do it well. Then we also drug effects. In our world today, we find that drug and substance abuse is something that is really affecting our world today, including the younger generation, the older generation. Some of us even start abusing drugs and substance when we are very, very young. And in that, remember, the earlier you start abusing these drugs, like you say, you bear with me witness that if you start taking drugs very early, like alcohol, you are able to become an abuser of even alcohol than the person who may start taking the alcohol later on in life. Then we may say that we may come to the psychological part of it, where we have like the self-esteem. When it comes there is, we have the low self-esteem, the higher self-esteem, and sometimes people may not have the balance. Sometimes if you are facing the low self-esteem because of maybe the things that you've gone through in life, based on the experience, you may find that you are not able to handle things. You collide with your colleagues at work now and then, and no one understands you. They give you names, and at that point, you continue sinking in low self-esteem. And not unless someone realizes that, or you as a person realizes that, and you're able to seek help, you cannot be able to come out of that. And that's the reason we say, let us, if you are maybe able to be given like a feedback, this is happening, sometimes sit down, think about it. And as a young person working in the maybe legal, practicing in legal side, you may find that you are able, when it is, you are told that it is important to take it positively, and if you're able to seek help, it will help you. Then we have also the high self-esteem. Some of them are not able, their ego is so high, such that even relating with other people, it is a problem. We need to have a moderation, and at that point, you'll be able to relate with others. And at some point, when it comes to this, there are some instances where you find that you are different in different situations. It is important to know and to have the skill to handle that. Then we also have the coping skills. I say that people cope differently at different times. It is very, very important to note that you are capable. Even if you feel vulnerable at that point, do not feel like you're helpless. You are helpful. Just accept that it is happening and you are able to move on Seek help. Kindly seeking help is very important because you'll be able to pinpoint what is happening. And I say when it comes to coping skills, some are able to cope well at different situations, and at other point, you may find you are not able to cope well. Just accept that and seek help. Then we have the social skills, how we relate with others, even at workplace. At that point, it is important to have a moderation and also accept others as you socialize, as you move on at workplace. And in this also, we have family relationships and trauma. There is a post-traumatic, I found there is post-traumatic stress disorder that really affects us human beings. People sometimes, we may think we are okay, but we are not okay. Not unless we come back behind. Sometimes you might have gone even through like rape when you are very young, defilement when you are a child, and you hid it. You did not talk about it to anyone. At that point, it may keep on recurring at every step of your life. Not unless you get, maybe you're able to get help and talk about it and maybe go over it and you stop blaming yourself, you may be able, it will keep on recurring, and in that it may affect your work at workplace in this demanding environment. So let us check that, and it is okay to have been gone through difficult situations when we are young, when even at this, when we are children, when we are young, and even when we are older, we keep on facing different challenges. Let us accept that and know that seeking help, especially to people who may not judge us. If you are in a place where maybe you are not able to get support well, you fear being judged, you may look for even a neutral person or even a psychologist. You may support you and you're able to come out of that post-traumatic stress disorder that may affect your work at workplace. Then family relations, nowadays it is so challenging. In African communities like in Kenya, sometime like during like 1980s, 1990s, and even early 2000, we found that we had strong family bonds where people were supported. When you are young, you have support of the older people and the people checked on you. But nowadays, because we are maybe moved in towns, we have people like we are leaving the older people in maybe rural areas. Sometimes even those older people are perceived like they are not able to support the maybe the learned generation in quote. At that point, we've lost it. We have lost the family ties. We've lost even that bond in African communities. How I wish as young people today here attending this training that we are able to think about it again and go back to our roots, because in Africa we used to have a very strong family bond that even can be able to support you as a young person. Even you are supported by the person who has never even gone to school, because it is through wisdom that they're able to support, and you support them in a different way. And in that way, we are able to have strong family bonds. But having said that, where we are, let us assess where we are. If you're able to have that bond, let us have it and make it stronger. And also look out, let us find out how our family members are doing, so that you may be able to work from us. Sometimes even there are those conflicts in the family. It is okay to have conflicts in the family because they are part of us. But how do we handle them? How do we support those who are going through those conflicts and then even trauma? Then we also have the peers. At this point, we may find even as adolescents, we may find that that bond of peers is so strong. But how do you handle it at that point, such that even as we grow, it do not affect our work negatively? Because sometimes when we are so much into peers, we don't listen to, it is important to have older people who maybe may mentor you as a person. And having said that, nowadays we are saying that we don't have mentors. People, we have lost that, but we still have mentors. we still have people with good morals in the society whom we can nominate. When we look left and right, we can have some. Just be positive and look even for that one person you can be able to mentor you. Even in our careers as young people in legal fraternity, we can be able to look at those other people who have become successful. How do we use them to be able to support, even as we support each other as peers, and make us grow, help us to grow one another, and also the other people may help us to grow. Then we talked about the social part of it. There are those family circumstances, I've talked about it. Sometimes there are conflict in the family. Let us be aware of that. And again, there is the school. When we are here as the legal fraternity, we are young, there is the school. And also, I know we are continuing to learn in this challenging environment. Let us, I don't know what is happening, network, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, Purity, we can hear you.
So thank you very much. I'm back, sorry for that. So we can say as young people, we are continuing even to learn. In school, we may have the even very tight school schedule. At that point also is a part of our mental health. Let us seek support from each other. And as we move on, we balance the school, maybe the work. Even with this demanding environment, I believe we are able to find one person or two, or even others in our cocoon where you can be able to support one another even in school. I think I've shared that. I may go down.
Thank you.
I think I may leave it at that point. Maybe later I'll be able to share more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Purity. You have highlighted to us a very critical matter. You have talked about mental health and how different factors, social, psychological, biological, are also contributing and affecting how lawyers and people in general are working and living on their daily life. So we will get back to you in order to get further information and insight on what should be done so that ultimately legal professionals and legal staff and just generally all professionals can be able to have a culture of healthy living. Thank you so much. Now we move on to Ms. Clarice. Ms. Clarice Osore will be, Ms. Purity, you are still sharing your screen. Thank you so much. Ms. Clarice will be giving us her perspective from a practitioner's point of view and a law firm owner. We have already heard from Dr. Victoria, doctor, and we have also heard from Purity, who is also a health and social professional. Now we'll be moving to get a perspective from a legal practitioner, and more so the specialty here is that she's also a law firm owner, and she will be addressing what her take is when it comes to law, wellness, and creating a culture of healthy living. Ms. Clarice will also highlight some of the challenges and burden that the legal profession come with, and of course she'll also tell us what best can be done moving forward. Ms. Clarice, you're welcome.
Thank you, David. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Very well, I'm Clarice. So sorry, I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I'm going to share with you briefly, though this topic is as broad as it comes, especially where mental health and wellness is concerned, especially with regard to young lawyers, especially those looking to set up their own firms and those that have already registered their firms. My position is that incorporating a culture of healthy living is easy, but also very difficult, mostly because we have technology. From where I'm standing, I have the feeling that technology is more often than not a smiling crocodile. As a tourist, it's nice to look at, but you can very well be a victim. Technology can assist young professionals in positive ways, and also can have a negative impact, especially where wellness is concerned. For example, we can access valuable information using technology. There's a lot of information where setting up farms is concerned. We have colleagues that have YouTube channels where they share their experiences and their ideas. We have TikTok, we have advocates that have their TikTok accounts where they share their experiences, they share a few snippets on how to run farms. But we also have unnecessary information that we may get from social media and technology at large. There's the need to compete, which will eventually affect a young lawyer, because everyone is portraying a lifestyle that is not necessarily true, not necessarily reasonable. So more often than not, as a young lawyer, you may find yourself feeling inadequate. As a result, depression will kick in. My fellow panelist, Dr. Victoria, spoke of the family background. So if in your family you're predisposed to getting depressive episodes, you're likely to be a victim because you always want to match up or prove a point. Also, with regard to social media, where valuable information is concerned, we have seniors that can be mentors that are easily accessible in these forums. So I believe with technology, it's easy to pursue healthy living and wellness as a young lawyer. I believe friendships are also formed in these virtual spaces. Some are enriching and yet others are catastrophic. We will go through this as we move along. So generally, technology may help you know yourself, which in essence will help you be a better practitioner, or it may also make you lose touch with yourself entirely, and that would be catastrophic. So to ensure we incorporate our culture of healthy living, we must focus on all aspects of our lives. I'm glad that Dr. Victoria already pointed that out. It's like a tree with branches. The same way the brain cannot work well if the stomach is not well fed, and thereby affecting most parts of the human body. My take is that we have to focus on all aspects of our lives to ensure the general wellness. I'm a Christian, so definitely I would push for our spiritual lives. We have to ensure that we need to be accountable to a higher deity, whether it exists or not. I believe we are all just winging it. But spiritual life is bound to keep you grounded. As Dr. Victoria also already pointed out about keeping fit, physical aspect, check your diet. It helps you to be more alert. You can think on your feet when you're physically fit. Also, it's good to look after our physical appearance, especially where our weight is concerned. Dr. Victoria spoke of obesity. For purposes of self-confidence, especially as a practitioner, you have to be self-confident when you're approaching clients and also in court. Also, there's the psychological aspect. A lot of things affect our psychological health. As I indicated earlier, some may be genetic, yet some psychological issues are acquired. And I believe we should really be careful, especially in this era where technology is really advanced, so that we protect our psychological health. Most of the time we realize that people and situations define how we feel, because then we react. Most of the time we are affected by technology. However, I believe every young advocate ought to know that what happens on the inside should not, what happens on the outside should not affect what happens on the inside. So if you decide today, I'll wake up, I'll be happy, I'll have a good day, I'll have a productive day. Sorry, David, then I'll turn on my camera. Thank you. Very well. There's also the financial aspect, where most of us are struggling, where the financial aspect is concerned. I believe we should also look into that. Personally, I also struggle with the financial aspect of my life. I think a saving culture would go a long way for any practitioner, especially any practitioner that is setting up their practice or is looking forward to setting up. Also the social aspect, where more often than not, we are a product of our environment. Again, as Dr. Victoria already spoke about drug and alcohol, drug abuse, I believe as legal practitioners, we are very predisposed to alcohol abuse and drug abuse in general, especially considering the nature of our work. But also the social aspect, it's good to also have a look at the friends that we keep. Where are they headed? What's their plan where life is concerned? Do they have the same goals as you? Are you moving in the same direction, or do you move forward and they push you a few steps back? Also, there's within the social aspect, it's good to think of the family, in as much as family is likely to keep us grounded. There's the issue of black tax that naturally we are Africans and we are supposed to look after our families and what have you, but it's good to also have boundaries and have a balance. Also, where social life is concerned, there's also the aspect where friends may, to fit in, you may find yourself disappointing your clients or spending clients' money in order to prove a point or to fit in. So you find yourself challenged, having to close shop and all the embarrassment that may come along as a result of that. Where practice is concerned, I believe every young advocate ought to know growth is progressive. You'll not wake up one day and have made it, maybe have the kind of clients that you feel your mentors should have, which brings me to the other aspect of the social life. It's good to have mentors. From mentors, you will learn where you are going wrong. You have a few things you may copy, or you can also decide, this is my mentor. I can pick a few things, but I don't think I'd want to have achieved this. I don't think I'd want to copy some of the things, because I don't think everyone is perfect. So it's good to have mentors that will help you learn a few things, but also know what to avoid. The other thing that I am supposed to discuss is how to navigate the challenges of setting up a farm to ensure healthy living. I don't know about Tanzania and Uganda, but setting up a farm in Kenya is not, I don't think it's a difficult thing. There are no challenges. You just need to register. I know you need an office. Where most advocates go wrong is that they start big. You have overheads that you are yet to meet. You may get depressed in the event you cannot meet your overheads. So setting up a farm is not the problem. The problem is what kind of farm do you want to set up? So it is good to always know your capabilities. It is good to start small. You can have a small office. Still, you can have a mentor host you. Personally, I had a mentor that hosted me for a while before I was on my feet. So definitely you start small. You can meet clients in a hotel or a friend's office just to save a few coins to avoid depression or whatever it is that mental challenges that may come about as a result of these issues that you may avoid where finances are concerned. I stated earlier, you make seniors your friends. They guide you, they challenge you. You're also able to set goals for yourself, and you can also use them as a benchmark of sorts. I already indicated that you avoid overheads. Perhaps a receptionist can also be an administrator. A pupil can also very easily do the work of an associate, except going to court, which you can do. We are happy in Kenya. I don't know about the other countries. We have virtual court, so it's easy to handle a lot of work at a go because you save time that you would have spent moving from court A to court B. I'd also advise a young lawyer to let people know what you do. Should create your brand. Be confident that you're a lawyer. These are areas of practice. Talk about your work in your social media. Talk about your work in your WhatsApp status. As a result of technology, you can really put yourself out there. We have applications like Zoho where you can monitor expenses, you can prepare and track invoices, among other things, making you get ahead. You avoid expenses that may have to do with an accountant. You do not need an accountant if you have the Zoho app. So perhaps anyone looking to set up could have a look at it. Delegate if you can afford it. I remember when I was setting up, I kept complaining that I'm overwhelmed and everyone kept telling me, delegate, delegate. So eventually, once you delegate, your mind is freer, you can look for more work. As I indicated earlier, growth is very, very progressive. You cannot wake up one day and find that you have achieved the goals that you wanted to achieve. So basically, I think I will stop here for now. But take home for this particular section is that you delegate, make seniors your friends, get mentors, and you start small and watch your finances. So I will hand over to the next panelist so that you can also learn from them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clarice. It was interesting to hear your perspective on how such challenges arise and how such challenges can possibly start to be tackled. We can't wait to hear your further input on how best people can move towards creating that culture of healthy living. And of course, we'll come back to you for further questions as well. Thank you. Now, moving on to our fourth panelist for the day is Ms. Jocelyn Minza-Simon. Ms. Jocelyn will be addressing the following questions, giving us her perspective of being both a lawyer, a legal practitioner, but also being a mental health advocate. And I think she'll be adding on to what Purity has shared concerning mental health, but of course, she'll also give additional input on that. Ms. Jocelyn will be addressing what are some of the mental health challenges that are related to the legal field and how a lawyer, a legal practitioner can identify them. And also she'll share what rights, if any, do legal practitioners have in order to seek assistance when it comes to challenges related to mental health. So, Ms. Jocelyn, you are welcome to proceed.
Thank you so much, moderator, for today, Mr. David Leons Ndeka, and former speakers, Dr. Victoria, Purity, and Clarice, for such a wonderful discussion, and of course, insightful and education. just to embark with the two questions that I have in place. That is, how can I balance mentally and, sorry. Okay, just to embark on the question that is, how can I balance work life and mentally, and what are the likely disorders or mental illness that one is likely to suffer when it comes to law in itself. I've started my presentation with the introductory part, whereby there are various data that speaks on how mentally one is likely to be affected practicing career in itself, that is the legal fraternity in itself. And there's an estimated 12 billion work days, that 12 billion work days are lost annually due to depression and anxiety. The global economy nearly loses USD 1 trillion. This comes from WHO guidelines and mental health guidelines and derivative from WHO and International Labour Organization policy beliefs. And also the World Health Organization's World Mental Health Reports, that of June 2022, reports that, sorry.
Jocelyn, you are muted.
David, please assist me sharing the screen. Sorry, I have problems with my laptop.
Okay.
Okay. David, should I proceed?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, let's go to the second slide on executive summary.
There you go.
Okay, as I said, this report is from the World Health Organization's World Mental Health Report of June 2022, of which 1 billion people living with the mental health disorders in 2019. For over 15% of working age adults experience mental health disorders, and major factors being work amplifies wider societal issues that equally affect mental health issues. And this has been spoken by our former speakers, Dr. Victoria, Equally Purity, and Kralis, on the, the workload that we lawyers have. In most cases, the litigant, you find you have a lot of, cases to handle and researches to do, and you find the workload in itself makes you, be mentally unstable. And an estimated 8.5% of lawyers have contemplated suicide, with which the link between occupation and suicide focuses on healthy professions. The highest rate of suicide and mental health is reported to be in occupations such as lawyers and construction workers. That is a report of Appeal 2023. And yet, discussing or disclosing mental health remains a taboo in work settings globally. We should all agree that the issue, the stigma is still there, speaking on mental health issues in our workplaces. It has been so difficult. In most cases, when you tell your employer or colleague that maybe you have a particular, mental health issues, they embark in thinking that maybe you are insane or you're unable to perform, while it's just a usual circumstance of which it's normal for one to feel, sometimes mentally unstable, and it requires a little attention, for which, when treated or taken into attention, it can go away and you can continue, fulfilling your daily duties as a lawyer, litigate, be it in any field, be it corporate or litigation. David, let's go to the third slide. Next slide, please. Okay, why are lawyers at a greater risk to be mentally unwell? First, overcommitment. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, David. The third slide, please.
Why are lawyers at a greater risk to be mentally unwell?
Yes. The reasons why lawyers are at a greater risk to be mentally unwell, first of all, is overcommitment. This is often rewarded in law. We can see it from the law school, undergrads, learning itself, it requires one to be overly committed. And lawyers also faces high expectations, leading to vulnerable clients through difficult times, often jiggling emotional and aggressive outbursts from clients. We all know that we have difficult clients where sometimes they require feedback on a minimum time, and sometimes you find you have promised something that is unrealistic to your client, and you fail to give feedback accordingly. So that can also be frustrating. And also, law is highly competitive profession, so in that itself, it becomes so stressful sometimes. Also, long working hours and stressful working. We all understand that in most of the law firms, we have people work from morning to to late hours. Why? Because they need to, they need to dedicate their time as much as possible so that to ensure they meet clients, deadline. And in most cases, the lawyering itself becomes, hectic sometimes. Lawyers are often at risk to burnout and depression if they do not take steps to mitigate legal risks and meet clients. And for that, we need to top-down change in our approach to mental health in the legal profession, and that change needs to be driven by leaders on law firms and by leaders of the bar. So we all know this is the message to the law firm leaders, managing partners, and some of the partners that have authority. We need really to give, a change. We need to have a change in our approach on mental health issues in the legal profession. Where necessary, we need to assist our employees on how to handle some of the mental health issues at our workplace. David, next slide, please. Oh, David. Okay, mental health challenges that one may face in the career. The common mental health challenges that one may likely to face in the law or legal, fraternity. First of all, is depression, whereby depression is defined as a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, typically accompanied by inactivity, guilty, loss of concentration, social withdrawal, sleep disturbances, that is, you can be insomnia or have excessive sleeping, and sometimes suicidal tendencies, as of the first report that I've read to you from the American Society, whereby there are a number of suicidal cases coming from the legal fraternity. And also another mental health challenge is anxiety, which is defined to mean a persistent excessive worry that will not go away even in the absence of stresses, leading to a nearly identical set of symptoms as stress. The symptoms of anxiety include increased heartbeat. Sometimes you feel, there are those who feel, most of the time they feel, worried. You don't even know what is the trigger of your worry, and you're not even, sure of whatever you're doing. We also have lack of concentration, restlessness, irritability, self-consciousness, nail biting. There are people who have tendencies of nail biting. Maybe you have a presentation and you find one, he or she is just biting the nails all over. And even insomnia. Also, lack of concentration makes a person commit silly mistakes in actions and speech. The people who have problem in speech due to anxiety, and some, they have a number of mistakes. One types an email and it has a lot of mistakes, or one is drafting maybe a contract, and you find maybe there are minor mistakes. This is due to anxiety. And because their mind is obsessed with the substance abuse, such as excessive use of psychotic drugs, such as alcohol, pain medications and illegal drugs. I think Purity spoke much about it, substance abuse, and also difficulty concentrating, fatigue can be one among them, muscle tension and irritability, and work-life balance concerns. So this is all that causes the trigger of depression and anxiety. And what factors contribute to the higher rate of mental health issues among lawyers? Factors that contribute to the higher rates issues of mental health among lawyers include high level of stress. The long working hours that we have, we are all witnesses that in our law firms and companies and organizations that we're working, it's always the legal department that is mostly active and requires, maximum dedication of your time. You're working extra hours and sometimes it's unpaid, and you just continue so that you have, better results. And also competitive working environments, lack of support, isolation, and the adversarial nature of their profession. We all bear in mind that we have this kind of situation that may trigger cases of depression or anxiety in our workplaces. David, next slide, please. David. David. David.
Jocelyn, I've already moved to the next slide.
Sorry, I wasn't seeing it. Okay, so just to conclude my discussion, analysis of the law in itself, we have seen that there are a number of rights that are imposed from the international level organizations of declaration on fundamental principles and rights at work, and its follow-ups adopted in 1998 and amended in 2022, of which the expression of commitment by governments, employers, and workers to uphold basic human values that are vital to social and economic lives. And there are basically 5 principles that, but just to focus on our discussions today, we'll see the 4th and 5th. The 4th is the elimination of discrimination in respect of employment and occupation, for which is so crucial for one to be able to, to attain better mental health, assistance. You need to take into account the issue of discrimination, because some places they discriminate people on basing on their mental health statuses. So when they know you have any mental health disorders, so they either terminate you due to performance or capacity, which is so unfair. Also, a safe and healthy working environment is so crucial. To me, a healthy environment, it also caters mental health. So we also need to take into account that, and that is the right that is imposed from the International Labour Organization Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work. And Article 2 also obliges the members that even who haven't ratified the same, it's the duty of all members to ensure that they maintain the principles of International Labour Organization in itself. And also you may wish to read the International Convention on
Jocelyn?
prohibits an employer to allow an employee to work more than 12 hours any day, which is contrary to what we are having right now. In most cases, you find yourself you're working even extra more than the hours that are specified in the legislation. Also, payment on overtime, sometimes we don't have it. It's also stated in the Employment and Labor Relations Act. Sick leave is also crucial. How can one ensure a better mental health conditions? Ensure that whatever necessary, you feel tired. Please, for Tanzanians, you have 126 days in a leave cycle, for which these are sick leave. 63 are paid, full paid up leave, and the rest 63 are, half paid up leaves. You may wish to take a sick leave for you to be able to, to follow up on your mental health statuses, where necessary, visit a hospital or psychiatry department for assistance or psychologist for, for psychotherapy or medications. And the same has been stipulated in the Employment and Labor Relations, the Employment Act of 2006 of Uganda, sick pay, section 55 and 53 are length of working hours per week, and maximum working hours for employees shall be 48 hours per week. That is from Uganda. And also Employment Act 228, that of Kenya, Part 5 speaks on the rights and duties in employment. So section 27, hours of working, and section 30 speaks of sick leave. So basically, these are the rights that are imposed to, employees, be it in the legal fraternity, on how one can ensure that he or she has a better, mental health statuses. So you have the right to sick leave. Whatever you feel tired, don't hesitate to go see a doctor for, psychotherapy sessions, and don't be afraid, speaking about your mental health situations. We'd rather hear your story rather than attending your funeral due to suicide. So that's all on my side. David, back to you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for the presentation. We'll also get back to you for further insight on how legal practitioners can cultivate a culture of healthy living specifically related to mental health, without, of course, ignoring other aspects of health, so that they can generally improve and maximize their potential and improve their performance in the workplace. So perhaps we now move back to Dr. Victoria. Dr. Victoria, we would like for you to address and let us know, what do you recommend to legal practitioners in order for them to establish and maintain a culture of healthy living?
Thank you, David, and thank you all fellow panelists for making my next part of the presentation actually easier. As we go along, I will try and not elaborate so much on some of the things that have been mentioned. So I'd like to call this the ABCs of wellness, like A to Z of what you need to do. And this is basically to highlight practices that you should have, or mindfulness that you should, of being healthy or being well as we go along. Things like diet, which is key, which we tend to neglect. And I already mentioned, if you eat dead or over-processed foods, anticipate that that is what your body cells are going to be like. So we normally encourage that one should have a lot or plenty of raw vegetables and fruit as part of their diet. One should have high fiber foods. And for the ladies, I have highlighted here that this will guarantee you a glowing skin, because even as you walk into whatever spaces you're walking into, you want to feel confident. And some of these little things are the things that lower our self-esteem as ladies. So to boost your self-esteem, just have these added benefits on top of just being healthy as well, but also having a glowing skin. Then hydration, be mindful, carry a water bottle. We recommend that you take at least 30 mils per kilogram of your body weight. So for women, averagely, it's about 2 liters per day. For men, usually who tend to be heavier because their bones are heavier, we recommend 2.5 to 3 liters per day as your target. Then try and enforce a culture of sleep hygiene. Get your 6 to 8 hours of sound uninterrupted sleep. I know this is something that you have to culture. It's a culture you have to build by the nature of your work. I know there will be tough days, but above all, keep it at the back of the mind, at the back of your mind, that this is the best practice. Then if you can, totally avoid alcohol. 1, it clouds your judgment. 2, it puts you at risk of all these diseases that we have kept mentioning, including the mental health challenges that have been highlighted. Avoid drugs and substances. But if you must take a little alcohol, like I said, let it be about 1 to 2 bottles and put it at that. Then should you recognize, these are some of the telltale signs that things are starting to get out of hand. Should you keep feeling low, more than 4 days in a week, which is more than half the week, your mood is generally low, please find a clinician and report them and tell them, I've realized this is not me, this is not the usual me, I think something is getting out of hand. So I mentioned good quality sleep. Again, if you have excesses of sleep, you're sleepy all the time, this is one of the signs that you could be slipping into depression. So everything has to be done in moderation. Earlier, I mentioned about spending time in the sun. When you have your tea breaks, your lunch breaks, can you actually walk away from your desk? Take a short walk under the sun and come back to your desk. Then we talk about eating in portions, and normally we advise vision your plate and divide it into 4 quarters. And half that plate should be your vegetables, the other quarter should be your sauce, and the last quarter should be your food. And we normally recommend foods that don't have a lot of calories for carbohydrate, meaning usually we recommend the colored foods. So things like rice, you reduce, preferably brown rice, things like posho, which is a staple for some of us, you reduce anything that's white. So that's Irish, you reduce. And then the other foods that are colorful, we normally encourage. And then do your health checks at least once a year. Do a general check. Even as a young person, walk into a facility and say, I have no complaint today, but I just want to do a health check. Because some of these conditions start without showing any sign. And the earlier you get it, the better. If there are vaccines that are available for you and you qualify, like the HPV vaccine, which prevents against cervical cancer, do go ahead and get it. Then we have been talking about fitness and exercise, and one would wonder what's the recommendation. So we normally recommend at least 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and then you can have 2 rest days. If you're looking at steps in terms of target, 6,000 to 10,000 is good enough. We talked about spirituality, and this is an important aspect. Doesn't matter what faith you subscribe to, but there is a spiritual being that's above and in control of all of us. So subscribe to whatever your faith is and seek whatever that spiritual power is and have a relationship with them. This is very critical in ensuring that you are wholesome spiritually and in all other spheres. Then we talked about social capital, social support. God created, or whoever created us, as social beings. You cannot live in isolation. And as legal practitioners, I believe that your job necessitates that you interact with people. But even outside your workplace, in other spheres of life, we all other. So support someone's hand. So when you should be held, we talked about weight loss and the risks of obesity and what it comes with. I know it can be daunting sometimes and a struggle to lose the extra weight, but the most important thing is to stay the course and not give up. If it requires getting a mentor to be able to do all these things that I've mentioned, please find a mentor, because it is possible. It is possible, it is within reach, and it will ensure that you live a healthy and fulfilled life, because we all can. Then there are people who will say, okay, you're talking about prevention, but I already have some of these conditions. Yes, you do have them, but practicing all the things that I've mentioned puts you in a better state for these conditions not to advance. So do whatever your doctor requires of you. Do not give up because the disease is already at hand. Rather, prevent it from getting worse. Adhere to the instructions you're given and live positively with whatever ailment you might have. Even if it's cancer, live a positive life, because you will enhance your survival for the duration that you have that condition. Then read, seek knowledge on how best can I live the best quality of life, even when I am diabetic, even when I'm hypertensive, even when I am bipolar, which is a condition where you have both depression and what we call manic, they are extremes. How do I live with this condition and live the best quality of life? Then just keep reading. We always say knowledge is hidden in a book. Sometimes put them on our shelves and they accumulate, and yet we bought them because we thought we'd just put them on the shelf there. So I'd like to highlight simple things that you could look out for, and in yourself, but also in your colleagues and in your friends. How do you tell that, you know what, now I am breaking down, I have reached breaking point, or you see that your colleague has reached breaking point and you need to intervene, to hold their hand. If you realize that you're losing interest in the things that you were previously passionate about and the things that brought you joy, that's one sign. If you start to become short-tempered, and that is usually not you, or any small thing ticks you off, you take things personally, yet you never used to. All the time you are thinking like you're in a trance. Every time someone walks into your room, it's like they snap you out of something you were thinking about, or you generally feel emotionally overwhelmed. You're exhausted and tired all the time. These are signs that show you need to take a break. And here I'm saying that sometimes you just need a break. You might need a bit of investment or not, to just move away to a beautiful place and be alone, to try and figure out everything and how you can piece yourself back together. And taking a break doesn't mean you've lost it, you're weak, you're lazy, or generally you're a quitter. It simply means that you're going to be able to keep going when you take that break, that you will give your very best to your clients when you take that break, that you care about preserving your own health and wellness, and you're being responsible to you. So if it means telling your supervisor that, you know what, I just can't take it, I need a break, do take that break, because that's the only way you're going to be able to actually move forward. So as I come towards the tail end of my presentation, you must be asking yourself, some of these things you have tried, maybe doesn't work for me. It is for somebody else out there who has the willpower and who can manage the consistency. My job won't let me have the consistency. But I want you to sit back and reflect. For how long do you think you will be able to serve efficiently if your body is ailing? When you fall sick because you're not taking care of yourself, will it matter that you are not performing to your employer before they get rid of you? It's only a matter of time that you won't be able to do what you've been doing, and actually might be shorter than you even think. You might say it's costly, some of the things require spending money, but remember, you're investing in your own health. Your health will be manageable because you'll be spending money in chunks that you can manage, rather than wait to be forced by a practitioner who is a doctor like myself to spend unimaginable chunks of money all at one go. As you all know, you saw what happened during the span of COVID-19. And you saw that lifestyle, those who had these challenges actually got the severe forms of these diseases. So you're the one who stands to lose out, and there are cost-effective opportunities that don't require money out there. So rather than spending it on partying, binging, spend it on developing yourself and investing in your health. So for employers, as I try to wrap up, please provide an environment that is conducive, have it in your values as an institution. If it means providing chairs that are comfortable, provide them, provide healthy meals. While you're constructing your facilities, consider that lighting is important. ensure there's enough human resource, engage your staff to see what works for them, and encourage your staff not to live a sedentary lifestyle. Also provide avenues for them to be able to manage their emotional wellness, strike a work-life balance while considering their family dynamics. So I'd just like to highlight one of the initiatives that I've come up with after realizing that people need more of this information and it's there, but they don't get it the way they should. I started what we call a health and wellness expo in Uganda. This year we'll have a second edition on the 3rd of September, and it is just to bring all providers who do anything to do with wellness. So we usually have a fun day where we display what nutrition is best. We allow people to participate in sport. We have comedy. We address common dangers or risks of NCDs, and we allow families to come and do their screening. And for those who are in Uganda, I would encourage you to come and be a part. Do not pass off this opportunity for other more engaging activities like music shows, parties, and what have you. Come and learn, come and be a part, and we hope that it will change your lives. So thank you, and over to you, David.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria, for highlighting how best we can cultivate that culture of healthy living. I believe the legal practitioners here have heard of what necessary things we need to do. Some of the things that may stand out, for example, having sleep 6 to 8 hours a night before a submission is due or a case is due. So hopefully we'll learn how to better prioritize that. But of course, we'll be conscious of the signs that you need to take a break. And of course, as time moves, we need to reflect on how best we can live a life that will be considered a healthy lifestyle for us as legal professionals. Now, I'm going to also ask Ms. Purity to also conclude. I'm conscious of time and I would like for you to spend only about a minute to conclude on what initiatives you have seen that have been successful and how you recommend them to legal practitioners so that they can cultivate a culture of healthy living. Ms. Purity, you're welcome. Please try to keep it to a minute. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, David. I hope I'm audible. Okay,
Yes.
there what initiative that you know, maybe there are successes that maybe I've seen maybe at my workplace or maybe that maybe would relate with the legal practitioners. I would say that it is important we may check. There is a model, I may say it is called PAMA. PAMA is about positive engagement, relationship, meaning, accomplishment, positive emotions, hope, we have joy, interest, love, compassion, pride, and amusement. A human being is composed of very many positive things that come from them. It is only unfortunate that sometimes we want to concentrate on the negative part of us, because as a human being, we both have the positive part of us and the negative part of us, even though we might have gone through many challenges in life. And I want today to say that it is important to focus on the positive side of life and the positive side even of colleagues and the positive side of even our employers. Sometimes it could be challenging. We might have gone through even conflict with the friends, with the colleagues, with our employer, but there is that positive part of them. So let us cultivate that being positive within ourselves. That strength of positivity, it is very strong. when we have that zeal of positivity, we can go miles. And as we say, those that miles journey starts with just a step. Let us learn to have that one step and learn to even appreciate ourselves. Even though you've done something very small, learn to appreciate yourself. Appreciate yourself. When you learn to appreciate
Miss Purity, you're muted.
in me. Sorry for that. Can you hear me? As I was
Yes,
saying,
we can hear you, and I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Yeah. When you appreciate yourself with those small strands, you'll be able to move miles. Then we can say, like, it is important also to have peer support at workplace. When you have peer support and the supervision, you'll find that as a young lawyer, as a young professional, as you move on, you'll be able to find areas of improvement and be able to appreciate others and also appreciate yourself. Then there is that part of self-care. Let us not forget. I think Victoria has talked much about self-care. Kindly let us not forget that. And then we say self-care. Personally, I have a slogan that I say, there is the supreme being. It doesn't matter who that you believe in. That supreme being is there. Then second, it is you as the self, the person. Then the third one, it is the person you are serving. And the fourth one, never change the order. Always start with the supreme being, the self, and also the person you are serving. When you do that and you do not change the order, you find that you will be able to appreciate the little strides you are making about self-care, and you'll be able to find that you're making a positive strands about taking care of self and also taking care of others at workplace and in family. And in one, you'll be able to make a healthy nation, a healthy environment, and our healthy, maybe Africa, and at large, a healthy world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miss Purity. Now coming to you, Miss Clarice Osore. I would like to kindly ask you to also share how lawyers and legal practitioners should create that culture of healthy living. And please kindly try to just use a minute to give us the key takeaways. Thank you.
Okay, very well, thank you. Initiatives I would recommend to promote a culture of healthy living among young lawyers. First, I would advise that you live within your means. Second, I would advise that you choose your circle wisely. Minimize or avoid overheads entirely if you may. Also, what you consume is who you become, whether it is food or information. Have a social life away from the practice of law. I believe the other panelists have already highlighted on that. Choose your clients. When starting up, every client counts because you need every coin. But however, as you grow, it's important to ensure the relationship is symbiotic. Know your place as an advocate, but ensure that the client that comes your way knows their place as a client to avoid any frustrations as you move along. Self-belief is very important. You are capable. You should walk through this life as though you are God's favorite child. God's goodness is not reserved for a favorite few. Every other person that has made it does not mean that they are more important than you are. Also, healthy families keep us grounded. In the same breath, you avoid relationships that may be draining to you. Be humble. You do not know everything. Be teachable. There's always something you can learn from everyone. And also, no one has it together. So it's okay to sometimes not have it together. It's a phase, it comes and it goes. Avoid people that are consistently complaining. Energy is always in motion, so you should be careful what energy you allow to pass by or through you. My parting shot is even a bad clock is correct at least twice a day. Do not dismiss anyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clarice, for clearly pointing out some of these things we should carefully note. And now to conclude the discussion, I'd like to welcome Jocelyn Minza to also share her take, but also probably point out on what mechanisms can be put in place in order to ensure that legal practitioners are taking care of their mental health in order to generally just be healthy and be able to perform very well in the workplace. Jocelyn, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, David. For me, I believe one among the ways on how we can equally achieve a healthy legal practice is, first of all, we should learn to change the atmosphere of the legal profession. This will enable us to eliminate some of the causes of stress and depression, such as, at least we'll be flexible when it comes to working hours. And at least let us have sessions, sessions whereby we understand when people go through a particular mental health, issues, we understand, and by the sick leave, we'll be flexible at least to allow people to go to to have mental health checkup and psychotherapy sessions, so that we can have a better performance. Also, we should be able to provide realistic timelines in our law firms and places of work. Qualifying expectation is also so crucial when it comes to legal practices. Also, we should have we should be able to have individuals who can have at least sessions of training on mental health issues, so that at least they raise awareness on mental health issues in the legal practices. Also, individuals must refrain from reinforce their boundaries just as much as law practices must respect and encourage them. So individuals are the ones to set their boundaries. You should have boundary from your work and your usual life. So that's so crucial. Also, eliminating the stigma around speaking on mental health is so crucial in the legal profession. We should be free to speak on it anyhowly and anywhere, just as how we have begun in speaking on it on the East African Law Society. This is so good, and I highly encourage it more and more. We should have more discussions on this. And also, we should increase seminars, policies, and training that increases awareness on mental health. I've already talked about it. It's so crucial. And also, lawyers are highly recommended to implement healthy practice, such as participating in hobbies outside work, setting a time aside for work and leaving work at work. At least this will be able to have something called a work-life balance, which is so rare to find in most of of litigants nowadays. And just to summarize, if someone at the office is contemplating suicide, please speak about it, and whoever has been told on the circumstance of one contemplating suicide, please seek help immediately. And there are various places where you can seek help. As I said, hospitals are better places where you can seek help. You can get medication or psychotherapy sessions. We have antidepressants, and we have a number of hospitals that have psychiatrist department whereby they offer a number of mental health assistance to victims of mental health disorders or issues. And also, let's make our working environment better by being kind to each other. Wherever necessary, please assist your colleague. And that's all. David, back to you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for the pointers on how best we can take care of our health, our mental health, and for reminding us that it's really important to seek help whenever we feel that it's needed, but of course to ensure that this our health is protected, and that is for the best, in order to ensure that we are really productive and are able to meet our targets as intended. Thank you to the panelists as well for all the things that they have highlighted and shared with us today. To the attendees, you are welcome to post any questions. It's now time to have questions for the panelists. In the Q&A box, I see there's someone who has asked a definition on supreme being. And I think this was Miss Purity who had explained that you also need to put the supreme being first. So perhaps, Miss Purity, you can just quickly provide clarification on this for the attendee that did not get this. Meanwhile, I would like to welcome all attendees to post in the chats, or if they would like to speak, to ask questions, please just have a show of hand and I'll allow you to speak. Ms. Purity, can you provide clarification on
Come again, David.
Yes? An attendee has asked you to provide clarification on what you meant by supreme being.
Okay, thank you. When one has what they, everyone has what they believe in. There is a God. I know there are those people who believe in different like religious sects, and we may have like maybe Christians, Muslim, Hindus, and also we have other different sects of belief. We have others also who believe in like friends, the family, who may, that supreme being that you believe in that supports you to be able to overcome your challenges. That is there. That maybe that person maybe you cannot see. And most of us, we believe, there are those who believe it's God. Others maybe may believe in others, but it doesn't matter what you believe, but that supreme being will strengthen you, will give you strength to be able to come out and take care of yourself and have a positive mentor and a good relationship at workplace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purity. I don't see any other question from the attendees. Perhaps to you, the panelists, is there something that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I hope I was heard, David, because I thought I was breaking.
Yes, you are heard. You are heard. Thank you, Ms. Purity.
Okay. Was I able to answer that question?
I believe you did. Thank you. So thank you so much, everybody that has attended. Before I hand over back to Gabriel or Alvin, I would like to thank you for joining and attending this session. And I would like to thank you for attending this session and joining us today. I hope you have gained understanding and have, of course, come out with insight on how best to take care of yourselves physically, mentally, in order to ensure that you're having a culture of healthy living and in turn, of course, maximize your potential and perform very well at work and in your daily life. Thank you so much. And Gabriel, I'd like to bring this back to you.
Okay. Yes, thank you, David. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On this session, allow me to first of all start by thanking our panelists, Dr. Victoria Kobusinje Clarice, Jocelyn Purity, and to you, our estimable moderator, Mr. David Leonis, for this wonderful session that has been greatly delivered. We are entirely grateful that you decided to take off time, prepare the slides, and deliver quite a great session for us all. As members of the East Africa Law Society, we are entirely grateful and indebted to you. So we thank you so much. To you, our participants, would like to thank you for putting aside 2 hours of your very busy schedules to come and listen in and learn on this very important subject of wellness. Indeed, like it was said earlier, your health is your wealth. Therefore, it is important
Gabriel, are you with us? On behalf of the panelists and of course myself, we would like to thank you all for today's session. Hopefully, like we've had, we'll need to be able to continue to take care of our health. And from what has been pointed out from the panelists, it's really important for us to take care of our health even as we seek to serve clients. After all, if you're not at your best self, there's no way you'll be able to serve anyone else, but of course engage with whatever else that you'll be doing. So let's keep that in mind and take all the strategies and tips that we've been given so that we can create a culture of healthy living. Thank you so much, everyone.